This is a special report from True Crime Today and the Hidden Killers podcast.
Welcome back to our continuing coverage in the trial of Scot Peterson, the Parkland School resource officer. We're up to segment number 2 of today. Let's go to the courtroom.
Mr. Jones, Mr. Killer, Mr. Cleaner, present for the state. I have Mr. Daybell, President, Mr. Peterson, who likewise is present. We are outside the presence of the jury. The witness remains on the witness stand. State, anything you need to address before we resume?
Your Honor, there was just a question with Mr. Walshe and wanting to use a photograph for the witness. I mean, I don't know if you can do it.
I'll probably use the one you gave me instead.
You're going to use one.
Yeah, it's not ideal.
But no objection.
But no objection.
Okay. Mr. Walshe, you have anything you need to go before we bring the jury back in and begin the cross-examination? No, Your Honor. Okay. Please bring the jury back.
Entry.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Come on in. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. After those seats, you may be seated. All the parties may be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, those of you using the notepads, I'll give you a moment to get those notepads back now. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. When we took our quick restroom break, we just completed the direct examination of the witness, who remains on the witness stand and under oath. So at this point, we're going to pick it up with the cross-examination. Mr. Walshe, when you are ready, you may proceed. Thank you, Your Honor.
Good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
I'm choosing to be wonderful. You? It's great to see you again. We met during a video deposition back on November 30th of 2021. Remember?
Yes.
That? I got a chance to ask you everything that you saw and heard, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Let's go through some of that testimony that I heard you give on direct. First, started off, you said you were you're a fitness specialist now, a trainer, correct?
Yes.
Right. and you've been training for about 14 years, correct? And on the day of the shooting, February 14, 2018, you're employed as what we call a security specialist, correct? And you had been there approximately 9 years as of February 14, 2018, correct?
No, not 9. I came here in 2011 and I was out in 2018.
Okay. And when did you first meet Scot Peterson?
When I came here. Yes.
And how would you characterize him professionally? What kind of job he did?
Did great.
Tell the jurors about that. What do you mean?
Well, anytime I needed him, doing searches, fights, stolen cell phones and things of that nature, he was always there for me.
And by fights, you don't mean any that you got into.
No, with my students.
And if students were fighting, did you see Scot immediately jump in the middle of things to separate kids?
Yes, sir.
Did you ever get the sense that he was a coward in any respect?
No.
Did you get just the opposite sense from him?
Yes, sir.
And how was he with the kids, his interaction with the kids?
He was still with this. That's a privilege.
And let me ask you about the incident that you first hear, okay? You hear something over the school radio, correct?
Yes, sir.
And it was Andrew Medina saying something about a suspicious person walking into the 1200 building, correct?
Yes, sir.
At the time, you didn't know whether my client was monitoring his school radio, correct?
Right, no, sir.
And there are times where, even though something is said over the school radio, you guys don't always catch it, correct?
Yes, sir.
Tell the jurors, explain to them how come you wouldn't necessarily hear everything that goes over a school radio.
Well, you wouldn't always hear it because sometimes the volume is turned down, sometimes down low, or it's too low where you really can't hear what they're saying. You ask them to repeat, what we just said.
What about when you're performing tasks and you have divided attention?
Right. Well, that occurs well, and with that, he tries to monitor 2 radios actually. He tries to monitor the school radio and his BSO issue radio, which actually caused him a lot of problems at the school. The reception is not that well. Sometimes they have to get up, we have to go outside to use that BSO issue radio.
We were going to talk about that, but I'm glad you brought that up. So there have been, prior to even this incident, times where my client has problems with his BSO radio, correct?
Right.
And you'll physically see him, I think he just said, get up and try to get into the open to be able to get reception, correct?
Yes.
And be able to say things, correct?
Yes, sir.
And we even see him on the video taking a few steps beyond the concrete as he's standing there on his radio, even during the shooting, correct?
Yes, sir.
And one of the things that you do when you walk into his office is you wanted to know whether he even heard the school transmission, right? What came over the school radio?
Well, I asked him, did you hear the transmission?
And you would never have assumed that he would have heard it because there are many times where he doesn't hear those things, correct?
There are occasions, yes.
All right. And he never answers you when you ask him if he heard it. He just said, let's go, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. So you don't know what, if any of the things that came over the school radio he actually heard, correct?
I don't know for sure, no, sir. No.
But you do see him doing something in his office. He's working, he's researching. You saw that, correct?
Yes, sir.
Tell the jurors what you saw when those transmissions went out over the radio, what he was actually doing in his office at the time.
When you have a computer, because it was a pretty busy day. We had a lot of searches going on. He was doing paperwork. When I spoke to him, his back was turned, he was on the computer typing. So.
You didn't see him with his school radio on him. You saw it charging on the other side of the room, correct?
I don't remember seeing his radio, but I remember seeing him at the computer doing work.
Got it. And it looked as if he was intently working on his computer, correct?
Yes, he was on the computer, yes, sir.
Now, he doesn't hesitate. In other words, some lazy cops, I guess, will just, you go deal with it. He jumps up and immediately leaves, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
He said, okay, let's go, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now, when you get into, outside of the 100 building, where your office is located, the fire alarm goes off, doesn't it?
I don't recall that.
Okay. But isn't that the sound that you hear when you initially come out, you guys are walking, that we see on the video, and I can play it for you, you then start to move quickly because the fire alarm goes off.
I remember me starting moving quickly, yeah.
Okay. And you initially start to run towards the 1200 building, correct?
Yes, sir.
But then Medina picks you up in a golf cart, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you jump onto the back of the golf cart, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, Medina says nothing to you guys while you're in the golf cart.
No, sir.
And I see you making a face. Why tell the jurors why that frustrates you?
Well, because it could have taken a lot of the guesswork out, pretty much what was going on, because he knew exactly what was going on. And that's the definition of it.
Tell the jurors what you mean by that. Medina knew what was going on, and he didn't tell you guys.
Correct. Well, he saw the kid walk into the 1200 building. He knew exactly how many people had walked into the building, and he knew that that particular person walked in carrying a rifle bag. And he passed it on around to Deputy Peterson and myself.
How does that make you feel?
When I did it, 17 people got killed.
You believe that part of Medina's job as a monitor was to convey that important information to both you and Deputy Peterson, correct?
Correct.
You've lost sleep over it, haven't you?
Objection, Your Honor.
What's the legal objection?
Relevance?
Yeah, that's sustained. Go ahead, sir. Ask your next question.
You do see my client on his police radio all the way to the 1200 building, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you remember him listening intently, correct?
Yes, sir.
Trying to gather real-time intelligence, correct?
Yes, sir.
So when you arrive at the 1200 building, both you and Deputy Peterson get off of the golf cart, correct?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to go through the video and have you take us through that. So this is the 100 building, correct?
Right.
And this is when you and Deputy Peterson are leaving that building, correct?
Myself and Mr. Captain Morgan Scott. We just went out of
This is the 2/22/14 we're seeing, right?
220, yes, sir.
And so that's, who's that in the hallway? You and Deputy Peterson?
Yes, sir.
No, stop. You begin running because the fire alarm's going off, correct?
Well, something got my attention, plus I saw Medina driving up on the golf cart.
Okay. And then what happens next? Let's go. Keep going. You guys are both jogging, correct?
Yes, sir.
Scot Peterson is jogging now towards where he needs to go, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And at that point, let me just pause for a moment. When you see him jogging and you see him acting up to this point, do you believe he's doing everything he can to be present and to help whoever needs him?
He was trying to get down to the area where he was going.
Okay. At no point does he say, hey, I'm out of here, I'm going to go jump into my car. He doesn't say anything like that.
No, sir.
Everything else was focused on trying to be of service, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, next thing, keep going. So now you're driving towards the 1200 building, correct?
Yes, sir.
And pause for a moment. You had described Scott's demeanor. You had never seen him act this way before.
No, sir.
Had there ever been a scenario on campus in all those years that you would analogize or say was similar to what you were going through here?
No.
It was like nothing else, correct?
No, sir.
And even you, how are you feeling at the moment?
Not good. Not good.
I can understand. Did Scott look the same way?
Yeah, he had a little bit more pressure. I think it was a bit more stress over him trying to handle the radio and stuff like that.
You saw that he looked pressured?
Yes.
He looked stressed? He didn't look like a man who was calm and just standing around doing nothing, correct?
He was on the radio majority of the time.
And keep going. This is between the 700 and 800 building, correct?
Yes.
What about 22320 right now, correct?
Yes.
All right, pause for a moment. There are kids coming out of the 700 building, correct?
Yes.
And they were all coming out because the fire alarm had gone off, correct?
I don't know the reason why they came out. It could have been. I don't know why they came out, but I do know that they were coming out.
Well, the bell hadn't rung yet,
Not
correct?
happening, but I can say myself, I don't remember hearing the fire alarm.
I got that. And isn't that, I mean, and you wouldn't be lying about that if the fire alarm was going off. It's just one of those things, right? Is that a yes?
Yes, sir.
Meaning that because it's a very stressful situation, it's possible the fire alarm was going off, which would make sense because the kids are leaving the 700 building, right?
Objection is to counsel testifying.
Yeah, that's the same, because they're asking a question where the question mark is being removed.
Would kids be coming out of the 700 building prior to the bell leaving like this unless there was a fire alarm?
No, sir, not one.
Okay. So, how many hundreds of kids are in the 700 building?
Quite a few.
Let's ballpark it, just so we know how many came out.
Just when I put in that area? Or
The entire 700 building, I
The
know.
entire 700 building, it's like hundreds of kids, like 600-700 kids maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there's no kid that's immune to the fire alarm. In other words, you don't have any special kids who they get to stay in the building. They're coming out, correct? And did anyone ever ask you to compile a list of all the students who came out of the 700 building during the fire alarm?
No, sir.
It wouldn't have been difficult, right? Because there's a teacher, and each teacher has a classroom, correct?
Yes, sir.
Do you know any of these kids that are coming out? Like, can you identify any of them?
I can't write down, but I'm pretty sure I know quite a few of kids.
Okay. And keep going, please. And you see that they look like they immediately start running in a different direction, correct?
Objection is to counsel testifying.
Yes, that's a statement, yeah.
Do you see them reacting on the video?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And in which direction do they run?
They're running back south, back into the building.
Okay.
Like 10, I think it was.
All right. And pause for a moment. So there's a period of time where you both don't run to cover yet, correct?
Right.
You're standing by the side of the 1200 building, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And you said that you heard some shots fired, correct?
Yes.
And isn't it a fact that you merely assumed, based upon what you had heard on the radio, coupled with the sounds, that they were coming from the 1200?
Well, I knew there was a gunshot and was confirmed when the other police yelled out, shots fired.
Okay. So in terms of the location though, didn't you make an assumption based upon what you had heard on the school radio, coupled with the sounds, you assumed that they were coming from the 1200, correct?
No, sir. I knew they was coming from the 1200 building.
Do you ever then say to Scott, hey Scott, there's shots in the 1200 building?
No, I didn't say that.
Okay. So with all fairness, you don't know what he was thinking, correct?
Right. I don't know what he was thinking of.
Got it. And he doesn't immediately run to a position of cover. Both of you stand next to the building and then you see him on his radios, correct?
Yes, sir.
You see him immediately yelling into his BSO radio that, possible firecrackers, shots fired, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you hear him order a code red on his school radio,
Yes,
correct?
sir. Mhm.
And whose benefit was that for? When you're hearing that, what are you thinking? Whose benefit was that for?
The students, the staff members.
Everybody.
Everyone on the campus, yes.
And up to that point, did you believe Scott was doing everything he could?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And even though you thought that the shots might have been coming from the 1200 building, number one, you don't know how many shooters are on campus, correct?
Correct.
There could be, in your mind, multiple shooters at different locations, correct?
Could have been, yes, sir.
Did you know whether the shots were contained exclusively in the 1200 building, or could they have also been coming out of the 1200 building?
From the one I remember hearing, were inside the 1200.
I understand. Did you eliminate in your head as a possibility that those shots would never then come out of the 1200 building? Or was that a possibility?
No, sir. Like I say, the shots I know for certain that I heard came from inside of that building.
You worked real hard to make sure that those kids who were coming out of the 700 building got back into their classroom, correct?
Yes, sir.
There was a reason why you didn't want kids around the area of the 1200 building, isn't that correct?
I wanted those kids nowhere near the 1200 building because I knew the shots were coming from inside the 1200 building.
Okay. And you certainly thought that if they remained outside, they could be harmed in some way, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you weren't the only one who wanted the kids back in. Scott wanted the kids back in, correct?
Yes, sir.
That's speculation, Your Honor.
Yeah, but that's his name.
Well, let's take a look at the video. You remember him showing you the video earlier, correct?
Yes, sir.
Where you're gesturing to get the kids back inside, correct?
Yes, sir.
But take a look. Isn't Scott gesturing as well?
Judge, I'm not objecting to that.
Yeah, that's the same. Looks like what-
Did you have the chance to see Deputy Peterson gesturing at all in real time?
I don't recall it. I mean, I see it on here, but he did tell me, hey, make sure those kids get back into the classrooms.
So he specifically asked you to make sure that those kids went back in, correct?
Yes, sir.
Did it seem that he had a sincere belief that those kids were in harm's way?
Yes, sir.
And if I heard you correctly on direct, he tells you, he orders you, get the kids back into the classroom, correct?
Yes, sir.
And he didn't say in a soft voice, it was a loud, powerful voice, I would imagine, correct?
Yes, sir. It was clear, loud and clear.
You also had concerns about the safety of the kids who were in the parking lot area too, correct?
Yes, sir.
You didn't know if they'd be shot by any bullets, correct?
Correct.
You recall seeing my client as he's doing all this. He's sweating, correct?
Yes, sir.
He's breathing hard, correct?
Yes, sir.
And it was your words that I heard on direct, correct me if I'm wrong. I didn't think he knew what was going on, correct?
Right. Yes, sir.
Tell the jurors what you meant by that.
Well, when I looked at him, he just had pretty much like a blank look on his face. There was so much going on, and I can imagine the stress, the pressure that he was under. So, and I pretty much just I felt helpless, like there's nothing I can do, and I just don't think he realized pretty much what was going on.
But you do see him monitoring both radios in real time to try to figure it out, correct?
Right. Yes, sir.
And while he's monitoring both radios, trying to figure it out, he had his pistol out. You saw that, correct?
Yes, sir.
You also remember him scanning the area with his handgun drawn, correct?
Yes, sir.
And to you, it appeared that he was trying to look and see where the shooter or shooters may be located. Isn't that correct?
Yes, sir. He did look out straight ahead and did look to the left and to the right. Yes, sir.
Okay. And during this whole time, you still see my client monitoring to ensure that there were no kids running out of the 700 building, correct?
Yes, sir.
That was an ongoing thing because you both wanted to make sure that they weren't in harm's way, correct?
Yes, sir.
And by the way, you never knew when ultimately the shooter left the building, correct?
No, sir. Not at that time, no.
You do recall my client directing Assistant Principal Morford to go to the camera room to review the surveillance.
I don't recall hearing it, but once I got up to Morford, he did say, let's go to the camera room.
Okay.
So,
And Morford was speaking without question to Scot Peterson as the information is being relayed, correct?
yes, sir.
It was Morford saying, hey, Green, let's go to the camera room, correct?
Greenleaf, yes, sir.
Yeah, that's sustained. Go ahead, sir. Ask your next question.
Didn't you testify on direct that Morford told you, Green, let's go to the camera room?
Greenleaf, yes, sir.
And you were in the camera room for quite some time, correct?
Yes, sir.
What was so difficult? And again, I don't know anything about it, so tell us what was so difficult in trying to locate where the shooter was in real time.
Because when the computer first come on, it's live. And we didn't see the shooter at that particular time when it was live. That's what made us decide to go back. Because the only thing we saw was the dust. When it was live, we saw a few bodies on the floor. And that's what made me take it back to the beginning to find out what had transpired.
At no time during this lengthy process of you reviewing the video did my client stop talking to Jeffrey Morford, correct?
They were communicating on the radio.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
It continued back and forth through this whole long process, correct?
Yes, sir. We was feeding him the detail that we saw inside the building, yes.
Okay. Do you know where my client was looking when you claim you saw kids running out of the 1200 building?
He was standing on the corner. I don't know exactly what he was doing. I mean, I know he was on the radio, but where he was looking, I don't know.
Those kids never came towards you, did they?
No, sir.
They ran in opposite direction from where you guys were, correct?
Yes, sir.
And from the photo that we saw earlier, where's that photo? I'm showing you what's been marked as 3 of 3 of the state's composite exhibit, which is 16. This is the same photo they showed you earlier, and there is, what is that in front of the door of the east stairwell?
The pipe with the fence around it?
That was there on the day in question, correct?
Yes, sir.
And also that big maroon pillar, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you just happened to be looking as those kids ran out, correct?
Yes, sir.
But at no point do they turn and run towards you or Scot Peterson, correct?
Right, correct.
And also, when you're standing where Scot Peterson was and where you were, okay, and you look to the west, was there anything there in front of you like a tree?
I didn't look to the west side, but there is a tree, but I don't know how far out.
All right, let me show you what's been marked as Defense Exhibit I, which I've shown the state. If I can approach the witness? Sure. Take a look at it and tell me if you recognize that tree. Does that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what is that tree?
That's right on the corner where we were standing.
Does that fairly and accurately depict how the tree looked on the day in question?
Well, I know it was a tree there, whether they had been trimmed or not, I don't know, but yeah, I do remember the tree.
Okay. Judge, I'd move this into evidence at this time.
State any objection?
Yes, I would have an objection, yes.
Okay, sidebar, please.
You do recall a big tree that was in front of you guys, correct?
Yes, sir.
And this is not a small little tree, this is an extremely large tree, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And would the branches cover a significant portion of the 1200 building if you're standing where you and Scott were?
It covers some of it, yes, sir.
Okay. When the prosecutor asked you how many total shots you heard, it was only a few, correct?
5 or so or more.
That's
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
You know that approximately 70 were fired. You know that, correct? When you were there.
Now I know, yes, sir.
Yeah, that's sustained.
Do you know why it is that you heard only a few shots?
Because those are the ones when I got down closer to the building that I knew were gunshot. I did hear some popping noise going down on a golf cart, but at that particular time, I didn't know they were gunshots.
Give me a moment. From the beginning of the time that you were with him to the time that you left him, did you believe that he did everything he possibly could with what he knew to try to help everybody?
Objection, asked and answered, Your Honor.
Yeah, that's sustained.
I didn't focus on the end part. I had just discussed up to that point. So I'm just asking from the time this is now at that end.
The objection was sustained. Ask another question. Go ahead.
Did there ever seem a time to you that my client really did know with certainty where the shots were coming from exclusively and then chose to act like he didn't?
Objection, speculation.
Yeah, that's sustained.
Nothing further.
Okay, based on that, any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead, sir.
Mr. Greenlee,
Yes.
on cross-examination, early in the cross-examination, defense counsel asked you if the defendant was doing everything he could. Do you recall that question?
Yes, I recall. Yes, sir.
Have you ever had any police training?
No, sir.
And defense also asked you about whether there was a sincere belief that the kids were in harm's way. Do you recall that question being asked?
Yes, sir.
Why did you have a sincere belief that you needed to keep the kids away from the 1200?
Because the shots were coming from the 1200 building, and that's the direction the kids were running towards.
When on cross-examination, you testified that you could see Mr. Peterson looking both straight as well to the west, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, straight ahead. Is that the east side doors?
Yes, the 1200 building. Yes, sir.
Is that where you saw the 5 kids run out of?
Yes, sir.
Now, the pipes that were shown, did that block your view from being able to see the 5 kids?
No, sir.
No?
No, sir.
Okay, I mean, let's show it.
No, I remember it.
Did that maroon pillar block your view from being able to see the 5 kids?
No, sir.
Now, the time that you were standing in the same proximity, the same area as Mr. Peterson, did it appear to you that he was focused in the direction of the 1200 building?
He was facing that direction, yes, sir.
Now, going back to the 5 kids running out, did you hear Mr. Peterson shout out to them anything?
No, sir.
Ask where the shooter is?
No, sir.
Ask any questions of them?
No, sir.
Now, there was some question about a tree. Did that tree prevent you from knowing that the shots were coming from inside the 1200 building?
No, sir.
Now, you also testified on cross-examination. You heard popping sounds in the golf cart?
Yes, sir.
Can you describe to the jury what you mean by that?
I don't like firecracker sound or gunshots. At that particular time, definitely didn't think it was gunshots. But I did hear popping sounds. It sounded like firecrackers.
You did not think it was gunshot?
No, not driving down, though.
Thank you.
Were they unusual sounds?
Unusual sound. Very unusual, yes.
Mr. Ana Walshe asked you on cross-examination about his client sweating and breathing hard. And something about a blank look. Do you recall that?
Yes, sir.
When you saw that look, what were you thinking about Mr. Peterson?
I didn't think he was going to, react. I don't know if he didn't react because he didn't know what was going on, or, So no, I didn't expect him to react to the 1200 building.
When you say react to the 1200 building, do you mean you didn't think he was going to go into the 1200 building?
Yeah, even if he even knew that it was there, no, sir, I didn't think so. No.
On cross-examination, you were asked whether you told Mr. Peterson about the shot spot coming from the 1200 building, and you did not say anything to him.
No, sir.
Why not?
Well, initially when I asked him, did he hear the call to 1200 building? He said, let's check it out. I assumed that, he knew he was going to the 1200.
Did you also, was it apparent to you that they were coming from inside the 1200 building?
Yes, sir.
And how far away was he standing from you at that point?
5 feet, maybe 5, 6 feet, maybe.
You want to make a question with us?
Sure.
Tell me when to stop. How close was Mr. Peterson to you? That's close?
Yeah.
Okay. It's almost arm's length?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, there was some testimony about Medina. Medina is not a police officer.
No, sir.
He is a civilian.
Yes, a monitor, yes.
Campus monitor. His job was to observe and report.
Yes, sir.
Was his job, based upon the training in January as well as everything else you know, observe and report, and during a code red, he's supposed to shelter and hide as well, correct?
Yes.
And wait for the police? Was that part of the training?
Well, he's supposed to lock down, yes. He's supposed to lock himself down, yes.
Locked down with the intention of waiting.
Yes, sir. Until all clear is like given or someone come let you out.
Yeah, he testified under under cross about Medina on the golf cart.
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible that there was communications or word shared between Peterson and Medina?
Could have been.
It could have been. You didn't hear it?
I didn't hear it. No, I didn't hear it.
Now, going back to the office, when you heard the transmission, you went into Mr. Peterson's office, said something, did you hear the transmission? What was his response?
Let's check it out.
He said, I'm sorry?
Let's check it out.
Let's check it out.
Yes, sir.
He didn't ask me, what are you talking about?
No, sir.
I have nothing further to say.
Based on that, it'd be cross.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
In response to the prosecutor, I think I just heard you say Medina could have said something to Scot Peterson on the golf cart on the way to the 1200 building, correct?
It could have.
But you never heard it, correct? You never saw it, correct? And also, I think your testimony was you just assumed that my client knew where the shooter or shooters might have been, correct?
When I stated to him that about the sound out of the 1200, he just said, let's check it out. I did mention 1200. He said, let's check it out. So,
correct, but then when you get on the scene and you hear shots, okay, you just assumed what was in his head, correct?
I didn't really assume anything. I mean, I knew where they were coming from. So.
Right, but at no point does he ever indicate to you that he knows, correct?
Right.
In fact, your opinion was just the opposite based upon how he was trying to figure it out, correct?
Objection, counsel testifying.
No, that's overruled. That was gone into on redirect. Go ahead, sir. You can answer that question. Go ahead.
Repeat that question.
You assumed just the opposite, meaning you believed he was trying to figure it all out, correct?
I assumed he knew it was 1200 building. When I stated to him the 1200 building, he said, let's check it out.
Right.
But I don't know for certain that he heard that.
And then when you see him on the scene and you see the way he's acting, it looked to you like he was trying to figure it all out, correct?
Yes, he was on his radio. Yes, sir. He was on the radio.
And he wasn't transfixed on the 1200 building. He's looking all around, correct?
Yes, sir.
And when you were sent to the office to look for the video, to convey to Peterson on the scene. At no point did you then say to my client, hey, it's in the 1200 building, right? You don't say that, do you?
I didn't say anything on the radio to him. Mr. Morford was talking to him on the radio.
Okay.
So I didn't say anything to him.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
He stated, is the witness excused?
He is, yes, Your Honor.
Sir, you may step down. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
While he's doing that state, you may call your next witness.
Your Honor, this time to stand before Mr. Elliot Bonner.
Sir, if I could have you come all the way up here to the witness stand, please. Once you reach it, but before you have a seat, you can just stop and look at me. Raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I do.
Please be seated. And sir, once you're seated, if I can get you to scoot that chair all the way forward as far as it will go. Can you please state your full name and spell your full name?
My name is Elliot Thomas Bonner. It's E-L-L-I-O-T. Thomas and Bonner, B-O-N-N-E-R.
Mr. Killer, you may inquire.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Bonner, what do you currently do for a living?
I'm retired.
And what did you do before you were retired?
I worked 30 years at IBM.
What did you do for IBM?
I was a programmer.
What did you program?
I worked on missiles.
Like military missiles?
Military missiles.
Previous to IBM, what did you do? Were you a Marine?
Yeah, I was a Marine.
All right, tell me about when you were a Marine.
Yeah, I was a Marine for 4 years. And
What years?
served 64 to 68.
Vietnam?
Vietnam.
What unit were you in?
65 to 67.
You were in Vietnam 65 to 67?
Yes.
And what was your job? What was your MOS over there?
I was an 0311, but I was trained in demolitions.
Okay. Did you see, silly question, I know, but did you see active combat over there?
Yes.
Okay. Were you issued a rifle?
Yes.
What kind was it?
M14.
Is that a loud rifle?
Very.
Ballpark this, because I don't even know I can't even imagine the number. How many times between utilizing it, between 65 and 67, as well as basic training, do you think you shot that rifle? Or rifles in an M14?
I don't even know how many times. Numerous times.
Numerous? Thousands?
Thousands.
Now, was there a point in time in your career that you worked at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas?
Yes.
And what was your job at MSD?
I was a campus monitor.
Okay. And as a campus monitor, what was your job?
My job was to make sure the campus was safe as far as kids going to class and stuff like that, but that's about it.
Were you armed?
No.
And sir, how old are you today?
I'm 78.
78. Now, I'm going to go...
I'm 77.
77.
Sorry.
No, it's not a problem at all. I'm going to go back to February 14th of 2018, approximately 2:15 in the afternoon. What were you doing around that time?
I was About 2:15, I was in the athletic director's office.
I'm going to show you a map of the school, Your Honor. This can be shown. I'm showing you what's already in evidence. It states 1. You familiar with that campus?
Yes.
Okay. Where, and you can actually mark on the screen, Your Honor, if I could ask you what the end is there on.
You want me to mark approximately where I was?
Yeah, just let me.
It's hard for me to tell you.
Just ballpark where you were.
Yeah, I was around here.
Okay. And what were you doing over there?
I was actually doing something in the athletic director's office.
Okay. And what caught your attention that something was wrong that day?
The fire alarm went off.
Okay. Did you have a specific area or specific responsibility when a fire alarm went off?
Yes.
What was that responsibility?
My responsibility was to get the people out of the 700 building.
Can you mark with an X the 700 building?
700 buildings up over here.
Okay. So you hear the fire alarm. What did you do?
I left the athletic director's office and got in my golf cart and rode up the sidewalk towards the 700 building.
Did you have a school radio?
Yes.
Okay. Can you just track, and I'm going to change it to blue, can you just track the path that you took towards the 1200 building?
I basically went up this way and down this way, and I stopped about there.
You stopped about there, okay. Why did you stop about there?
Because I seen Coach Feist laying on the ground.
Now, previous to seeing Coach Feist on the ground, did you hear anything?
Yes.
What did you hear?
I heard those gunshots.
Could you tell where those gunshots were coming from?
I knew they were coming from the building,
Which building?
the 1200 building,
How could you tell they were coming from the 1200 building?
because I know what gunshots sound like.
Once you get to that area where you stopped to drew the line, what did you do after that?
I stopped and I said on the radio that those weren't firecrackers, those are gunshots.
That's over the school radio.
Over the school radio.
Okay.
And then I said code red.
When you said code red, had you previously heard anyone else over the school radio call a code red?
No.
You were the first.
As far as I know.
As far as you know, okay. Now, I asked you if you were armed that day, but was Coach Feist armed that day? With a gun?
No.
Was Brian Stobley?
No.
Kelvin Greenleaf?
No.
David Taylor?
No.
Ana Ramos?
No.
Medina?
No.
Going back to the map, when you stopped at that specific point there, how far would you estimate you were from the building, from the 1200?
30, 40 feet.
What did you do when you heard those shots and you were in the car?
I said code red and I left.
How did you leave?
I just backed up.
Did you put the car in reverse?
Yes.
Did you turn it around, or did
No,
you just?
I just went in reverse.
Okay. While you were in reverse, heading backwards, did you run into anybody?
Yes.
Who?
Officer Heinrich.
Did you know Officer Heinrich before that day?
Yes.
Did you know that he was a Coral Springs or that he was a police officer?
Yes.
Okay. What did you tell him?
I said, Coach Feist is laying by the door.
Do you recall saying anything else to him?
I don't recall saying anything else.
Okay. You know Scot Peterson, right?
Who?
Scot Peterson.
Yes.
How long had you known him for?
For as long as I've been at the school. For as long as he's been at the school.
That day, over the radio, did you ever hear him announce a code red?
No.
Now, after you reversed the car, what did you ultimately end up doing after that?
I ended up going into West Glades.
I'm going to erase this.
Going into Westlake.
West Glades.
West Glades.
Where is West Glades? Let me zoom out a little bit. Where's West Glades?
This is West Glades over here.
Did you get there in your car?
Yes.
Okay. And why did you go over to West Glades? What were you doing?
I was getting as far away from those gunshots.
Okay. Were there kids around you? Students?
Yes.
What were you doing with the students?
The students pretty much followed me.
Is there a gate that connects MSD to West Glades?
Yes.
Can you just mark approximately where the gate is?
Approximately right there somewhere.
Okay. So did you head west and then south to that gate?
Yeah, I went. You want me to write it?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So I went down here, and I went down here, and I went through the gate with my golf cart.
Okay. And where did you go once you were on that side?
I went down this way.
Why did you go down that way?
Distance.
When you went down that way, so the southern point of the blue marker did you run into other students and other teachers?
Oh, yes.
How many would you estimate?
Approximately 300.
Your Honor, I'm going to show it's F5, which is evidence is 6.
Does this require the screen?
It does not, Your Honor.
Okay.
Do you recognize this?
Yeah.
Who's that on the golf cart?
That's me.
This camera angle, which way are we looking?
Which way was I?
Yeah, which way is the camera facing?
I'm going to be honest, I don't know.
If you look at the bottom left hand of the screen, can you see it?
Yeah.
What does it say? Do you see it? Building 13, west?
Building 13, west to field.
Okay. So you can keep playing there. When you turn there, are you heading towards the 1200 building?
Yes, I'm headed east.
You're heading east, okay. Maybe pause it every second. Do you see what time it says at the top? Does it say 2:24:49?
Yes.
Okay. While you're off screen, is that when you utilize the school radio, or is it while you're driving backwards?
I utilized the school radio while I was stopped there.
And do you see the screen time there, 2:24:59?
Yeah.
Okay, and this is when you're heading backwards,
Right.
correct? Heading west? While you're heading backwards, do you continue to hear shots being fired?
I don't recall.
Do you see the individual in the white shirt?
Yeah.
Is that Jeff Heinrich?
Yes.
Now, the brief interaction with him, did you stop and have a conversation, or was it just...
As I passed.
Drove past, it was in passing.
As I passed.
Officer Heinrich, was he the individual in plain clothes that was watering the baseball field that day?
Yeah, he was in plain clothes. I don't know what he was doing,
Okay.
but he was on the baseball field.
He was on the baseball field.
Right.
Just one moment, John.
further for Mrs. Bonner.
Okay, cross-examination, go ahead.
Good morning, Mr. Bonner.
Good morning.
Sir, you and I met back on June 30th, 2022 in a video deposition. Do you remember me asking you questions?
Yes, I remember you asking me
Did
questions.
you have a chance to read over your deposition, your sworn testimony before you testified today?
No,
You did not?
no. So when you say before, I'm taking recently.
Recently, the state did not give you your sworn testimony?
Oh, they did. But
Okay.
I didn't read over it.
Okay. And I'm assuming that, like most of us, your memory doesn't get better with age like wine, correct?
I can't remember what I ate yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, all right. So let's talk about this. You do remember that you were a campus monitor with Stoneman Douglas for 25 years, correct?
Approximately.
And you, thank you for your service. You served as a Vietnam vet, so you know the sound of gunfire, correct?
Yes.
And you worked with Scott. Can you describe for the jurors professionally how he was to work with?
Well, we worked with Scott as far as getting students and whatever he needed. He was the SRO.
Was he professional?
Yes.
Was he dependable?
Very dependable.
Would he jump right in if anybody needed him for something?
Yes.
You wouldn't call Scott a coward, would you?
No.
In fact, you saw just the opposite, didn't you?
Just the opposite of coward?
Yes.
I wouldn't call him a coward.
You recalled the fire alarm was going off as you were approaching the building, correct?
Yes.
The fire alarm you would characterize as extremely loud, correct?
If you're in the building.
Okay. Now, when you're on the golf course, you pulled up and you see Coach Aaron Feist on the ground, correct?
Yes.
And you say that you got within 30 to 40 feet of the 1200 building, correct?
Yes.
But this is on the west side of the
Yes.
1200 building, correct?
Yes.
And you believe the shots that you heard, by the way, were of Coach Feist being shot, correct?
No, I don't know. I just heard the gunshot.
Okay. Let me show you this. Is this showing you what is in evidence as defense exhibit number 1? Is this the west side that you approached?
Yes.
Okay. And Coach Aaron Feist was on the ground right outside the door?
Right outside those doors, right? Yeah.
Now, when you heard the shots, isn't it a fact you couldn't nail it down to the 1200 building, but the area around the 1200 building? Isn't that correct, sir?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. And one of the reasons why, when you went on your radio to announce those aren't firecrackers, those are gunshots, you didn't give a specific location of where the shots were coming from is because you didn't have one, correct?
Yes.
You believe that the shooter or shooters could have been outside of the 1200 building, correct?
Yes, could have been.
Could have been on top of the 1200 building, correct?
That's definitely could have been.
Could have been potential sniper fire, correct?
Sniper fire?
Yeah, somebody shooting out of a window or from some location.
I guess so.
And with all those buildings, had you had any experience prior to the shooting with there being any kind of echo in that area?
Yes.
Tell the jurors about that, please.
Well, there's quite a few buildings, and it's really hard to tell when there's a noise. You can tell it's over there, but you can't tell where it is over there.
So you can get a
Because all our buildings are close together.
Got it. So you might get a general idea, but not specifically where, correct?
Yes.
Had you had an experience or experiences prior to the shooting of hearing loud noises and knowing generally where they're coming from, but not specifically?
Yes.
Tell the jurors about that, please.
Well, because we deal with a high school, and people want to have firecrackers sometimes, and they're kids. They do things, and that's it. You know, you kind of know it's over there, but you don't know where it is over there.
What about an air horn? Have you ever heard an air horn?
That you hear more than anything.
Tell the jurors about that.
Air horns, you don't know where it is. It's just, you know, it's on campus.
And so you don't know whether to go right or left?
Because the air horn echoes itself.
Okay. You never saw any bullet-riddled windows, correct?
That's not correct.
Okay. Did there come a time when you were there in real time on the west side that you actually saw bullet holes in the window?
Yes.
You did, all right. That would have been on the west side, correct?
On the west side.
From where my client was, there's no way he could have seen those, correct?
I don't know where your client was.
Okay. Assuming you're on the east side by the 7-800 building, there's no way to see those holes from the windows of the west side of the 1200 building, correct?
Yes, I would go with that.
Okay. Nor did you see any muzzle flashes at all, correct? No trails of blood that could lead you to a conclusion of where the shooter or shooters were located, correct? No smells, correct?
No.
And you never attempted to reach out to my client in real time during the shooting at any time, correct?
No.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Wish you the best.
Any redirect?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Very briefly. Mr. Bonner, on cross-examination, you spoke about the fire alarms. Can you tell me about the fire alarms? Are they louder inside the buildings or outside?
Yes.
They're louder inside?
They're louder inside.
Are they significantly louder inside?
Yes, because they're geared for us that are inside, the students.
Outside in the hallways, are there, I don't even know what you would call them, are there actually like horns for the fire alarm? Or how does it work on the outside, if you recall?
I believe so. I really can't answer that.
Now, during a fire alarm, let's just even say a regular fire drill, are you able to have a conversation like you and I are having outside in the hallways?
I don't understand what you mean.
Outside, the volume of my voice right now, would that be loud enough for you to hear in the hallways during a fire alarm? Would the volume of my voice be loud enough inside a classroom during a fire alarm for you to hear me?
Probably.
Probably, okay. On cross-examination, you were asked about the location of the shots. Did you think that the shots were coming from any other area other than the 1200 building?
At the time, I just thought there was a 1200 building.
At the time, you thought it was the 1200.
Right.
I have nothing further. Your Honor.
Based on that, any recross?
Yes.
Go ahead, sir.
In your mind, there is a difference between the 1200 building and the area around the 1200 building, correct?
Absolutely.
Didn't you tell me on cross-examination that you narrowed it down to the area around the 1200 building, correct?
No, I didn't really say that, but I said it was around the 1200 building. But
okay.
To me, it was in the 1200 building because I wasn't really assessing the area. I was right there where Feist was, so to me, it was in the 1200 building.
Okay. Do you remember giving a deposition back on June 30th, 2022?
I remember doing it.
Okay. And do you remember me asking you the following question on page 10, line 11? Well, could you...
Yeah, that's his thing.
Do you remember giving a statement that is different than what you testified today?
I don't recall.
Okay. Well, if you had your deposition, would that help refresh your recollection?
Yes.
Okay, great. Go ahead and approach the witness.
You may.
What are you referencing, counsel?
Page 10. We'll start page 10, lines 11, and we'll go to some other pages if necessary.
So the purpose of the exercise is to see if the document refreshes your memory. Take your time, just read it to yourself. Once you're done reading it to yourself, if you look up, I'm sure the lawyers will have some more questions for you, okay? But what I don't want you to do is read out loud from the document. Just read it to yourself, okay? Thank you. Mr. Agash, you may ask your next question.
You want me to read everything that's in yellow?
No, sir.
Okay.
Does that refresh your recollection as to whether you thought the shots were around the 1200 building versus inside the 1200 building?
Yes. And I said I don't know.
Okay. Nothing further.
State, is the witness excused?
Yes, he is, Your Honor.
All right, sir, you may step down. Thank you very much. While he's doing that, State, you have another witness that we can start before the lunch break?
Can you have a moment, Judge?
Sure.
Judge, our next witness is Mel Black.
Okay, you want to do the lunch break now?
Yes.
Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to send you to lunch. Same admonition as always. Please don't discuss the facts of the case, the evidence, the witnesses, or the testimony amongst yourselves or anyone else till we reach the end of the case. Please leave the notepads in your chairs. I have to have a discussion just with one of you. So if the rest of you can step in the back, juror number six, if I can just have you stay in your seat momentarily. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to send you to lunch. Juror number 6 is about to join you. I hope you all have a good lunch. I'm going to see you back at the jury room. Let's call it 1:30 p.m. 1:30 p.m. Make a guarantee about the PTO time, because I think today's your 10th day. There are other ways that they can make sure you don't have to use any of your PTO time. I guess the procedures contained in the email. So I wanted to give you the information, and I told them this is what I was going to do. I'm giving you the info, and if you want to call them over the lunch break, I'll have you with us for the rest of the day today. But at the end of the day today, again, probably outside the presence of everyone else, I'm going to proceed as you elect, all right? If you want me to excuse you for cause at this point, again, I don't want you to suffer any economic harm, and I don't want you to lose any of that PTO time. If you want me to excuse you for cause, I probably will be inclined to do that. I'll have to listen to what the lawyers tell me about it. If you want to stay with us, and I know you're greatly invested and you've been here a long time, then you're going to get to stay with us. So I'm going to leave it up to you, okay? But I want you to have all the information, make the appropriate calls, have a nice lunch. I'll see you at the jury room at 1:30, okay? Okay, thank you. Okay, we're outside the presence of the entire jury. State, anything else you need me to address before we recess for the lunch break?
Okay.
defense, anything you need me to address before we recess for the lunch break?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, so we'll be recessed till 1:30. I hope you all have a nice lunch.
That concludes segment number 2 in today's coverage of the trial of Scot Peterson. There is more to come. I'm Tony Brueski. Stay with us.
This has been a special report from True Crime Today and the Hidden Killers podcast.